universally, and ultimately. My dad was a scuba diver in 1951. It was invented by Jacques Cousteau in 1948. And I've had the great pleasure to dive all over the world, and I must say the Red Sea is the prettiest place I've ever been, right here in Eilat. But even the coral of the sea knows its rightful place and acts with the utter perfection, allowing the web of life to be represented in their beauty, wisdom, and contribution. From the 100 trillion cells that make our bodies, we are rich with vibrational life. This life must be maintained at a high frequency, or we begin to stumble at every level. This is inside of us. Isn't it beautiful? It's amazing. Each microorganism, most of which are invisible, contribute to the tapestry of wholeness that make our planetary ecosystem. This ecosystem can only flourish when each of these organisms is acknowledged and supported in its contribution. Here are your blood cells coming right at you. It looks like the universe. We started out in the middle of space, right? Well, inside of your cells, as the holy writings of Judaism tell you, every cell represents the universe. The web of life. As you can see, even inside your cell, there is a limitless network of subcultures, nuance, and life. It is for us to humble ourselves and relax in the arms of the universe, so that we relegate arrogance and ambition to the history books. We will not only survive, but will flourish, and once and for all utilize our evolutionary brains for the healing of self and others. Let us welcome you to life as it should be. All right, there you go. So what we're going to do is get up and move around for a minute before we answer questions, because if we just sit there, it's going to be problematic. All the blood's going to go down to your toes. You won't know what to ask. I think it's a cute idea, but it doesn't work. Again? For 56 years, hundreds of thousands of people later, we've never once taken a blood type into account. Under that theory, my wife, Dr. Anna Maria, who you're going to have time to spend with now, and myself have a type O. We're supposed to need meat. The day I gave meat up, I lost 120 pounds. I became healthy. We have taken meat and dairy away, again, page 1, from every single one of the guests, and we have had more people heal catastrophic disease at Hippocrates Institute than any organization in the history of healthcare. We're not talking about natural healthcare, we're talking about healthcare. After medicine doesn't work anymore, not that it would have, they show up at Hippocrates and heal catastrophic problems again, like Eva, who's sitting there with stage 4 ovarian cancer, 0 success. Or you could listen to theories. Now the good news is, the Diadamos, the father was persecuted in my country. He actually had to leave Connecticut when he was a naturopathic doctor and flee to Canada. This was his theory. His son became popular, and God bless him. These are good men that believe in what they're saying. There's a lot of shysters out there who are making up stuff for money. They're not one of them. So what they did is they moved people in a better direction. I congratulate them. But again, we do clinical research on humans. Anyone over this side in the middle? Yes?
Before we get down to Florida,
there's 2 books that you should read if you're really interested in helping to heal yourself and your family. The book I wrote a number of years ago called Living Food for Optimum Health. Living Food for Optimum Health. All of the internet sites would have it. You can call Hippocrates and get it. Another book that's a companion to that is Life Force. Lifeforce. or CE. And then if you want a recipe book, Dr. Anna Maria and our past chef wrote a wonderful book called Healthful Cuisine. There's an Israeli woman here today that just put out a beautiful raw food recipe book. I don't remember the name of it. What's the name of the book?
Raw food, Hayim,
Okay. Okay. And Shula is an Israeli. And she is here now for the next several months, and she's going to be helping any of you to get answers to questions you may have. Our objective is not to get you to only come to Hippocrates. If none of you ever come to Hippocrates, I don't care. We're here to help you as people. We want to change one person at a time so humanity raises itself back to normality. Yes?
What advice would you offer for a family who wants to begin to transition in this direction with a lot of kids who love their breakfast cereals, and what's the smallest step you'd suggest?
Excellent question. I learned this when I speak in France, which I go to once or twice a year. I'm a typical American, as you heard me today. So I come in, I'm like a gangbuster. Bum, 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 you better do it or else, you know. And my good friend who reversed HIV/AIDS on the program and began to write books in French 25 years ago, came to me after a lecture in Paris where I was doing this banging job, and he said to me, "What you said is absolutely correct, but the way you say it is absolutely wrong." So he said, you can say the same thing, but before every sentence, say to the French that this is a possibility. So the possibility is quite simple. If, in fact, you say, I'm eating a horrific diet, I'm on the typical schlock Israeli diet, even minus the hummus. If you got rid of 8% of bad foods, less meat, less dairy, less soda, less bad cereals, less milk, all of the things that we do, and put 8% of positive foods in, at the end of 1 year, you'll be eating a good diet. Now, I don't know anyone who rationally can't do that. The other thing is you cannot, I honestly believe what I'm telling you, every word, or I wouldn't be saying. I think our children are our greatest teachers. Enlightened people get to understand that as time goes on. So allow your children to move at their own pace. You can't force them. You can't be dictatorial. You can't be, hey, listen, we've got to do this, mommy, daddy. You know, you're struggling. So remember that. It's your own process of getting back to the basics again. So once you're confident, the children are going to be confident. They look at you for guidance. And as I pointed out at questions here, all of my children, when they were 2.5, 3 years old, came to me and said, Daddy, people slaughter animals and eat them and take milk out of their breast. Why would they do that? Now, they honestly each said this to me, all four. Why? Because their life, their normality wasn't my life. Coca-Cola, soda, bad food constantly. Their reality was good food and healthy. They couldn't understand why other people did that. Okay, so you've got to create the atmosphere with loving husband and wife that is supportive to one another so that you get the strength and then slowly move in. So a little bit less of it is the best way to do it. There's horrifically bad things you know. You know what you got, what you're doing wrong. Get rid of those first, obviously, and then down slowly but surely. But some things people don't know. Like I brought up the chicken issue. I realized in the Jewish people's world, chicken's a big deal. How many of you ever heard, let's be honest here, how many of you ever heard that there was 50 years of incredible research that unshakably is showing chicken causes cancer before this? Okay, so one person, 2 people read it. So think of the room here. So this is why we're lost today. But what you do hear is the chicken industry's voice and the kosher industry voice. And you hear the milk industry. I said to my wife, you know, in Sweden where you grew up, by the way, did they give you free milk? She said, absolutely. But then what's frightened me, I said, in Russia, did they give you free milk under communist Russia? Yes. They were marketing in communist Russia milk to people. And, you know, these are things that are so absurd when you really think about them. Why would God intend that we take milk out of another creature? This is why the kosher laws prevail. It doesn't make sense. I mean, would any of us think about getting on our knees next to a cow and drinking from its breast? Well, if not, why then do we feed this to ourselves and believe that it's good for us? Give it to our children and believe it's good to us. Again, page 1. Just keep going back to page 1. When the mistakes were made, that was it. Anyone on this side in the middle? Yes.
You mentioned about B12 deficiency, you mentioned with ADD. So when it comes to ADD, is that one of the major things you would say?
Yes, it's interesting. Attention deficit disorder, the jury's not really in if it's a disease. Now, the one that I've actually read a lot of, because he's done the science, is Dr. Amin, formerly out of USC. And he really photographed hundreds and thousands of kids' brains who had it. And he broke it down to 4 disorders. But when you look at those disorders, and what we've seen in the limited work we've done with it, which is hundreds of people, not tens of thousands of people, we actually see you can reverse this in almost every case. But it's not only diet. Once you get into a pattern like that, attention deficit disorder, biofeedback, and there's very advanced biofeedback. For instance, the unit that we just learned about today would help with ADD, because it gets your breathing, your respiration to get rhythmic. And when proper levels of oxygen go to the neurons in the brain, it actually regulates brain function and thought patterns. So there's many things. Israel can guide you on this, because he's equipped and he understands all of this. The other thing we must understand is that the pharmaceutical industries govern what you think you have today more than the doctor. The poor doctor is the second person that gets this information. They come to us and they say, by the way, there's restless leg syndrome. Now, a legitimate doctor would say, what are you talking about? Why don't you get the person up and get their circulation to run again? But the other 99.9% of them are going to say, what drug do I give for it? There's attention deficit disorder. Prove it to us. Prove it to us. Because no, the jury is really not in on it. Are there people who have a struggle with the way they think? Yes. But can it be a nutritional deficiency? Can it be an emotional disorder? Absolutely. Maybe, possibly, at some times it can be. So when we see people correct those emotional disorders as well as physiological deficiencies like this, we see normality occur. Anyone over here? Yes?
I wanted to ask about about bone mass, because I went raw
Right.
for about a year and a half, right, as I was going through menopause, and I lost 12% of my bone mass.
There's the word raw, and then there's a proper diet. And then there's what matters with bone mass that has nothing to do with food. It's called weightlifting. I've worked with 18,000 women with osteoporosis. There's always 2 things they must do. First and foremost, they must lift weight or do resistant exercise. If they don't do that, they're not going to get well. So listen closely. It is not a calcium deficiency. You know why? Because only 1 out of 150 women have a calcium deficiency. At Hippocrates, we do very, very, very sophisticated nutritional studies, and only 1 out of 150 women have calcium deficiency. Lots of women have silica deficiencies. Lots of women have magnesium deficiencies. Lots of women have biotin deficiencies. They help, but if you don't weight lift, you're not going to get well. Plus that many raw food eaters, because you're all sugar addicts, we all are, eat large amounts of fruit. Now what we know that you shouldn't, any of us, eat large amounts of fruit. If you're sick, you should eat no fruit for a long period of time, or drink the juice. If you have cancers, viruses, molds, yeast, fungus, bacteria, low blood sugar, high blood sugar, no fruit at all. And top it all up, all fruit, including organic fruit, is picked unripened. All unripened fruit will rob your bone of minerals. That's why, by the way, when you notice, you drink orange juice out of the container you buy at the local store, your teeth feel like chalk. You are literally, physically feeling immediately, within a matter of 30 seconds to a minute, minerals being taken out of the bones of your teeth. Wake up, people. So if you were on our diet, as sure as I'm sitting here, you would have gained bone mass. You would have been healthy. And that's why we have 95-year-old people running around perfectly fine without osteoporosis, because we know how to do this. Anyone over this side? Yes?
I was diagnosed with hypothyroid.
Right.
The doctor prescribed L-Troxin.
Right.
I've been taking it for so long, and then I got tired of taking a pill every day. I decided to quit taking it, and I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, not a good idea. You don't just quit taking it.
Right.
What you have to know is that the number one problem for women that's escalating like a rocket ship is thyroid problems. And let me explain why. Women are more hormonally active than men. Why? You create other people. We don't do that. Bottom line is that your glandular